Bloomberg News reports that the Nigeria Securities and Exchange Commission has suspended its previously announced plans to regulate cryptocurrencies until those dealing in them are able to open bank accounts in the country. The SEC was quoted in the report that, quote, for the purpose of admittance into the SEC regulatory incubation framework, the assessment of all persons and products affected by the CBN circular of February 5, 2021 is hereby put on hold until such persons are able to operate bank accounts within the Nigerian banking system. Let's discuss the SEC latest position a bit further now with Johnson Chukwu, the CEO at Carry Asset Management. Good to see you, sir. Good evening. Johnson, thank you very much. It's good to see you.
Good evening, boss, and thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Hope you had a very nice week so far.
Well, so far, at least the markets are rebounded. We had a couple of days of bearish run, but now we saw a rebound yesterday. So there are reasons to be optimistic.
Reasons to be optimistic. So let's just talk about this hot story that the SEC has agreed to work together with the central bank to better understand and identify the risks and the mitigations of the cryptocurrencies. What's your take on this?
Boston, I think it was most expected. I did not expect that Central Bank of Nigeria and the Securities and Exchange Commission will be working at cross purpose. As you know, late last year, Securities and Exchange Commission came up with a guidelines that it is working on regulating cryptocurrency, digital currencies, and that it considers digital currencies as part of the assets that are securities which it should regulate, and that it wanted to regulate those currencies so as to protect investors as well as have an orderly market. On the contrary, I mean, on 5th of February, the central bank came up with a directive to the banks to close accounts of cryptocurrency operators, which these are diametrically opposing positions of SEC and SEC and central bank. So I expected that we are going to see this harmonization. The reality is that you cannot have SEC regulate a commodity that it considers as securities when the central bank is saying that commodity should not operate within the Nigerian financial system. So I expect them to harmonize their position. Good thing is that the SEC said they're going to study further cryptocurrencies or digital monies and then determine how best to approach it. I hope that further study will allow for a most scintillation of ideas and ultimately will lead to a most appropriate decision by the regulators.
The initial position of the SEC on cryptocurrencies and other such financial assets, what's your take on that, where the SEC says it's working to provide the regulatory environment for cryptocurrencies?
Yes, like the SEC said in that circular, they consider cryptocurrencies as securities that are tradable. And that if they are tradable, it needed to regulate them. Like, most importantly, you know, one of the critical roles or duties of financial system regulators is to ensure that they protect consumers of financial assets. And that's what SEC said it was its priority. One, that would allow it to have an orderly market. Two, most importantly, as you know, cryptocurrencies are subject to wide fluctuation in their prices. So regulating them will entail that they come under some regulatory framework that will ensure that investors understand how the market operates, and regulators also understand where to intervene in the market. In the case of stocks, for instance, there's what they call circuit breakers. When excitements in the market lead to irrational behaviors, the Securities and Exchange Commission or Nigeria Stock Exchange will apply circuit breakers and stop trading in stocks. So similarly, I expect that when cryptocurrencies come under the regulation of SEC, that it should be able to monitor movement and avoid wide fluctuation that could lead to investors losing their money. So that's what they formed that position. But interestingly, like I said earlier, central bank has a contrary view. Central bank feels that cryptocurrencies could impede what we call financial system stability and could have an impact on economic stability or macroeconomic stability, and therefore felt that the first thing to do is to stop operating these assets until we understand them. So I think SEC's position was quite clear when it took that position. I do not think it has materially deviated from that position. What he said is that he's going to work with central bank to harmonize their positions and ensure that they understand the products, because he really cannot consider an asset that the central bank considers as an outlaw. SEC cannot consider it as a tradable security.
Johnson, what should the central bank and the SEC be doing right now?
The first thing for me is that they should try to understand digital currencies. It looks like I said in your program last week, it looks like we have to accept that we can run away from this evolution of money. Remember, we started with gold standards, and then we moved to fiat money, and now we're dealing with digital money. So the first thing for me is that SEC and SEC should try to understand cryptocurrencies so that they should bring these currencies under their regulatory framework. That's the way they will protect the financial system. That's the way they will protect investors. And then that's also the way they will forestall such currencies being used for unethical or criminal activities.
Well, some people say illicit financial flows are everywhere, and every financial asset like money is subject to abuse. So why harp on the dark or bad side of cryptocurrencies?
Well, the key thing why cryptocurrency is because it is new. A lot of people do not fully understand how it functions. There are no regulatory bodies that can say they actually regulate this. Unlike when you talk of financial flows from the financial system going into criminal activities, they could only be faced. One of the things they tell you that the easiest crime to investigate is financial crime because you can trace all the flow of the funds. Unfortunately, cryptocurrencies seem to be opaque in its nature. And therefore, tracing the flow is a lot more complex than tracing the flow of financial assets. And I think that's why it is of great concern. Two, like I mentioned earlier, there is no single body, there's no regulatory body. There is no body that you can actually say this is the issuer of cryptocurrencies. Today, the origin of cryptocurrency is still largely unknown. And the issuers, I mean, the people who mine these coins are also largely anonymous. So the issue is that where do you pass on responsibility in case something goes wrong? In the case of financial system, if there is a fraud, they can trace the fraud to where it originated and where it ended. And I think those are the reasons why the emphasis now or the attention is on cryptocurrencies. It's not just Central Bank of Nigeria that is showing attention to cryptocurrencies. Several regulatory bodies, several financial system regulatory bodies are also concerned that this could interrupt or disrupt financial system.
A quick one here, Johnson, is that what if the central bank moves to say, look, we license crypto exchanges in conjunction with the SEC? Because that's February 5 statement from the central bank is that crypto exchanges are not known, so they're not registered in. What if these crypto exchanges are registered? Should that be the option?
Yeah. It could be one of the options, but I think they should even go beyond that. Apart from registering the exchanges, this body of central bankers or the financial system regulators in the world should come together and ensure that new coins mined have the stamp of the central banks, because that will also monitor the volume of these currencies in circulation, as well as ensuring that you can track the flow of such currencies. There has to be some level of regulation. There's actually nothing that operates effectively without some form of regulation. Even when you talk of self-regulating organizations, they also body of rules and regulations that guide such self-regulatory organizations. So even if you say cryptocurrencies are self-regulated, the key thing is that there must be a body of rules, that infractions of those rules will be punishable. Today, I'm not sure they exist. And those are the concerns. The central banks, not just Nigeria Central Bank, must find a way of ensuring that each coin that is mined is recorded, so that you have, just like Nigerian Central Bank can tell you, this is the amount of money in circulation in the country. The U.S. Treasury can actually tell you this is the amount of dollar in circulation globally. And the same should apply when it comes to cryptocurrencies, because there are several cryptocurrencies. The most popular ones like Bitcoin are just one of the several thousands in the market. And nobody knows what volume is in circulation. Nobody knows what determines price movements. And these are factors that are, like I said, are of concern to financial system regulators.
Johnson Chukwu, CEO at Carry Asset Management, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. We appreciate your insights.